Welcome to the Bookers Alliance podcast, where we hold the pencil and the pencil is power. Coming at you right now is your host, Marky Mark, along with the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Donaldson. Join us as we discuss the ever-changing landscape of professional wrestling. So hang on tight, you jabronis, and enjoy the ride. All right, welcome in, everybody. Pull you up a ringside seat and come sit and enjoy today's episode with us. We are coming at you live on the Bookers Alliance podcast, and I got your host Marky Mark here along with my co-host Mr. Frank Donaldson. Frank, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm good. I can't complain here. Happy to be back in the saddle again.
Yes, sir. Let's saddle up these ponies and ride.
All right.
As the song says, regulators.
There you
mount
go.
Up.
Got to mount up.
All right. So today we are going to come at you with a new game show, a new kind of a can you remember game show. So today's game show is going to be a walk down memory lane and see if old Mr. Frank here can remember some specific storylines that have happened through the wrestling era.
Yeah, so, I did a lot of bragging about about how good my memory was. So I guess now I've talked the talk. Now I got to walk the walk.
We're going to put this to the test here. So.
All right. Let's see what we got.
So here's the deal. We are going to go over 5 storylines that kind of traverse the eras of professional wrestling here. If Mr. Frank here can get 3 out of the 5 correct,
60%.
His grand prize will be a match of his choosing and go on to main event a future premium live event.
All right.
So that will be his grand prize if he wins.
All right.
If Frank loses, well, old Frank here will join the fine superstars at the catering table in the back for the premium live
back there with Eric Bischoff. All right. Easy E.
Easy E.
They call that the Easy E position back there. The gorilla position is right before you go out for Gorilla Monsoon. Catering is the Easy E position because that's where Eric spent his second stint in WWE. All
so you'd be back there with Madcap Moss.
There you go.
You'd be back there with those guys.
There you go. What about that one guy? What was that guy? Boogs, Rick Boogs.
Oh, Rick Boogs. Yeah.
He's back there still.
You mean the new Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah, there you go.
With the face of Rick Rude?
Yeah. Now, if he can catch, I mean, he's got a lot of strength. If he can catch, maybe. But as of right now, yeah, he's holding up catering right now.
Yeah. All right, so let's start this off with our first storyline. So, Frank, can you remember the Mega Powers?
The Mega Powers.
So we'll give you an easy one here. We'll ease into this a little bit. So in 1989 on the NBC special, The Main Event 2, you begin to see the cracks in the foundation of the Mega Powers. What was the catalyst that led to those cracks forming in the foundation?
Let's see here. So the main event. So that's a specific moment in the storyline. That's going to be a little bit difficult. Let me see if I got the right one, if I'm on the right path, this would have been technically when they exploded with the whole Mega Powers versus Twin Towers tag team match. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So the catalyst of what broke them up was, who is it here? Oh, Akeem the African. Akeem threw Macho Man out of the ropes, and he threw him through the middle ropes, and he fell on top of Elizabeth. Yep. He fell on top of her, knocked her down. And we had never seen Elizabeth get physical at all in wrestling. So, I mean, that was stunning for 1989. But Hulk Hogan went and got on top of her. He put his leg over, and he was just looking at her. And Macho Man woke up, from his knocked outness or whatever. And he gave him the point, and he just kept looking at him. And Hogan was crying and asking for help in the back. And he was begging for a stretcher, and they wouldn't bring a stretcher. And Hulk Hogan picks up Elizabeth in his big arm, in his 24-inch python arms. As Macho Man looks behind, and Boss Man and Akeem jumped Macho Man, threw him on the ground. As Hogan walked off with Elizabeth, Macho Man cleared the ring. I remember Jesse the Body Ventura on the call. He said Macho just cleared the whole ring, and Macho won the match. Macho found a way to win the match, then took off in the back. went in the back and started fighting with Hogan, and that's where we heard the immortal words, "I see it in your eyes, Hulkster."
Yeah.
Lust Elizabeth. Lust Elizabeth. And then Hulk Hogan looked at Elizabeth and said, "Liz, try and talk some sense." And Macho Man walked off the camera. All of a sudden, you see him pop back in the camera, cracked Hogan upside the head with the belt. Yep. And from what I heard about that, that was a real crack, because there was apparently some tension going on between those guys anyway. If you look at the video, you'll see Hogan had a big purple spot on his bald head there. So Macho made real contact. There wasn't no selling going on there. That was hard way. But yeah, so that was the catalyst to the Mega Powers exploding.
Nice. Ding, 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 ding.
All
we
right.
have the first correct.
We're 20% down already, fellas. We might get this here.
All right. So we'll move on to number.
Oh, and ladies too. My bad.
We'll move on to number 2 here. Number 2, the storyline of Mr. McMahon's illegitimate child.
Oh my God, horny.
Oh, here we go. So let me get
All
the question out. Let me get the question.
Oh, my bad.
Mr. McMahon had some crazy storylines over the years, but maybe none as crazy as the storyline where it was told that he had fathered an illegitimate child. Who did that child turn out to be?
Turned out to be Hornswoggle, but it was supposed to be Kennedy.
I
mean, everybody remembered,
story.
Kennedy, Ken Kennedy, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Kennedy with the microphone. God, I wish I had one of those microphones in here. That would be awesome right now.
The ceiling.
But that would kind of be in our little studio here. That would kind of be a little displaced, but be fun. But yeah, so apparently the idea was supposed to be Kennedy, of course. I mean, obviously with the name, but because it was all over the dirt sheets, it was just kind of everywhere. Everybody knew it wasn't going to be a good surprise by any means. Turned out to be Hornswoggle, who up until that point we thought was Finley's illegitimate child.
Correct.
So somehow or another, this guy's got 2 deadbeat dads that didn't do anything for the little guy, and the little guy ended up not. I think they found out he wasn't Vince's son. I don't know how they got out of that storyline, but yeah. So the answer is Hornswoggle. Final answer.
Always after me, Lucky Charms.
Oh yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a second correct answer.
All right.
All right. Moving on to number 3.
One more gets me the win. Right?
Yeah, one more.
All right.
Gets
So
you
I
the
can
win.
sandbag on one of these. I just get lazy on you here.
I think you'll get this one.
All right. Let's see what we got.
So number 3, spin the wheel, make the deal.
All right. WCW.
So Halloween Havoc 1992 showcased the riveting match of spin the wheel, make the deal.
Oh my God. Before you even go any farther, good Lord.
So
one
yeah,
of the worst
hits of
matches.
sarcasm right there.
One of the if you're going where I think you're going, and I know everybody out there is thinking, they're probably looking at it here. I swear on everything I'm worth that we have not prepped for this.
There's no prep to this.
We're
everybody.
cold on this one, but that being said, I'm pretty sure he's about to bring up the coal miner's glove match between Jake the Snake Roberts and Sting.
Yep. So
one of the ugliest matches on pay-per-view ever.
So my question it featured the riveting match of spin the wheel, make the deal. This was a showdown between Jake the Snake Roberts and Sting, where the wheel would be spun to choose the stipulation of the match. What was the stipulation that Sting spun?
Coal miner's glove match.
Which
one of the worst.
I never understood that.
So I listened to Eric Bischoff's podcast, and he talked about this around Halloween time, so not too long ago. And he said the same thing, but they said they were trying to be true to the game. They didn't want it to be a setup, or they didn't want to gimmick the wheel. They wanted it to be whatever actually spun up.
Right.
But when Coal Miner's glove spun up, they were just dumbfounded. But they had Dusty on the booking team, and that was a Dusty staple back in the 70s. But we're talking the early 90s now. Those 70s matches were gone by that point. But yeah.
So being that we're the Booker's Alliance, how would you have fixed that issue?
So you got Jake the Snake Roberts and Sting. I mean, for me, I would spin the wheel, make the deal would have been in that. I would have taken it from the storyline that they left in WWE right beforehand with the Ultimate Warrior and Jake the Snake Roberts.
Right.
Before Warrior got fired, Warrior and Jake were doing the whole, where he took him to the snake pit, and he took him and buried him in the casket, and he was teaching Warrior how not to be afraid of the Undertaker. And then at the end, Jake turned on him, and we found out Jake was he was in cahoots with the Undertaker all along, and they were backstabbing the Ultimate Warrior. For me, at that point, WCW had taken a lot of WWE, property and kind of integrated it into their own. I would have taken that same storyline and just built on it. Like, hey, anybody who knows anything about wrestling knows Sting and Warrior were tag team partners. I would have just compounded right on and said, hey, you know what? I saw you were messing with my buddy over there on the other side, so I'm going to take care of business over here and just let that storyline play out.
Yeah, for me, I just wouldn't have put that option on the wheel.
No. So, yeah, if you're going to do spin the wheel, make the deal, you at least put interesting match,
right.
Give them like your best 6. Let's say whatever your best 6 are. But no, you didn't need to have, I think they had 12 options on there, and it was a crapshoot. Yep. And they crapped out. And it was crap.
The worst one on the wheel.
Oh, my God. And of course it landed. I mean, but let's be honest, that was WCW in 92. Everything they did was a crapshoot, and typically everything that happened was a crap out.
Yep. All right. So we'll go to question number 4. Now, this might be a little bit harder. We'll see.
Well, we already won the game, guys. So look, we're gonna get our match.
Yeah. So these are
now we're going
credit.
for extra credit. We're
extra
going for
credit.
bonus. This is the bonus round.
This. If you get this one, you get to choose the stipulation of your
All
match.
right. Well, it won't be a coal miner's glove match.
Hey, there you go. So this topic is Bob Backlund ousted as champion.
Oh my goodness.
1983. It was decided that Bob should drop the championship after his very long title run.
Mm-hmm. Second longest in history, if I remember
right. Who did Bob lose to?
He lost to the Iron Sheik in the camel clutch. But there's a caveat here. He didn't lose technically. The towel was thrown in by a second.
Correct.
And his manager threw the towel in, and Bob had to lose the championship. So Bob never submitted. Bob never took the 3 count. But Bob had to get. Bob lost. Even Arnold Skolin. Matter of fact, I got this.
What?
It took me a minute. I don't know if you guys caught that. I was stalling a little bit.
I was gonna throw in, dude. Like you could be an extra something if you get the name of the manager.
I was trying to stall out with the conversation there because I was like, I know this name because he used to second Andre the Giant. They said he always drove Andre around.
Right.
But I couldn't remember Skolin's name because I could see the 2 A's in it. Because it's spelled a funky way. But I couldn't get that Arnold out. So I stalled a little bit to get it, but I got it here. But yeah, Arnold Skolin threw in the towel on Bob Backlund, giving the Iron Sheik the championship for his. Oh well, I think he reigned about a month.
It's transitional, yes.
Yeah,
sir.
and I mean we know what happened right after that. If anybody's listening to the archives back there, you heard my story about my introduction to wrestling. I mean, so Sheik, from Backlund to Sheik, brought in that Hulkamania era. So, yeah, believe you me, you got to do the backstory. Even though I wasn't watching when that all happened, I followed a little backstory to find that one out.
Well, everybody, we are at 4 for 4. We got one more left. Let's see if Frank here can make it a clean sweep.
All right.
And I'm pretty confident that he will. So number 5, Triple H stealing the bride. Who was Stephanie McMahon originally engaged to before Triple H stole the bride, or did he steal her?
Well, so let's talk about that here for a second. So no. So the answer would be Andrew Martin, also known as Test.
Wow, he went with the Andrew Martin.
Oh yeah, no. So I wanted to throw people off. I wanted to see if somebody's out there like he got it wrong. No, he didn't get it wrong. Andrew Martin is Test. Test was the fiance that got stood up at the altar. Technically, even though with the story, it carried on from there, but. Yeah, as far as that goes, that is interesting. So if you remember, Stephanie, Vince, everybody was just so angry, so upset and all that about, what Triple H had done at the Little Chapel O' Love out in Vegas in the little convertible Mustang that he drove Stephanie out there in and whispered in her ear. And they said, oh, yeah, we heard you. And he threw a lot of money at him, and all of a sudden he had a marriage certificate.
Yep.
Which I don't know if it's that easy, but yeah. So then we later came to find out that Stephanie and Triple H were in it all along because Stephanie was angry at her father for letting her be sacrificed on Undertaker's cross, if I remember the weaving and whatnot. That's to correct. Get to that point. But yeah, that was one of the one of the storylines that really showed Stephanie's range. Because up to that point, she was just, Vince's daughter. She was a kind of a mousy little character. She'd come out there, she'd cry and scream or whatever they needed her to do. But, no real depth to the character. But, you know, when Triple H and her finally revealed their big master plan and all that, all of a sudden we got to see how good of a character Stephanie really could be.
Yep. So 2 things about that storyline. First thing, would Test ever had anything else had it not been for that storyline?
So before Test, Test left us here, he's unfortunately passed away. Before Test passed away, though, he was real hot and heavy with Stacy Keibler. I'm like almost going in. So he had something. I mean, I don't know what else he had. I don't know what he did or didn't have as far as his in-ring career and all that, but his out-of-ring career, he did okay.
He had height. I mean, I'm a short fella, so.
Well, hey, so if I remember right, there was one guy that said, you can't teach that.
Yeah,
so,
you can't teach that.
But at the end of the day, I guess the demons, we always talk about the wrestling god, the demons got him or whatnot, but with his look, with his, I remember for a while they were kind of grooming him to be like the next Kevin Nash. He
right.
kind of had that same build. He wasn't as tall as Big Kev, but he was close. He had the long hair, he had the goatee. He had everything but he was 15 years younger than Kevin Nash. So he had that going for him. So I get it. But I listen to Pritchard's podcast for those, I listen to a lot of podcasts in case anybody was listening. But like on Pritchard's podcast, then that damn bell had to ring.
Yeah.
So Test had all that look, everything look, big jacked up some gun, tall Joker, good looking, all that. That damn bell had to ring, and now you got to put it together for 10 to 15 minutes in a match, and that's kind of where it all fell apart. But rest in peace, Test. He's always got my kudos because, if he had Stacey, he did something right.
Yeah. And then the second thing, do you think we would have ever gotten this storyline if Trips and Stephanie wouldn't have been really together behind the scenes at that time?
So interested. So they weren't together at that time. You'll see that. So anybody who's watching the upcoming A&E biographies, there's a upcoming biography for China. So they're going to break down a lot of that story about when that happened. But apparently when that whole storyline started, Stephanie and Triple H didn't really like each other. They, they didn't have they didn't know each other. They just kind of got thrown together in the story, but they didn't, from what Stephanie said in past interviews, from what I've heard, she said that, during their time together, there was like flirting or whatnot going on. And that's when she kind of realized like, hey, this isn't just normal, acting here. This is kind of going on farther, past the thing. So, in all honesty, they weren't together at the time. I think that, and this is just me thinking, I think that Vince needed stars right at the time, and he just knew being able to put him across from Triple H would build Triple H, put him up to that, main event level, because he had kind of been the second fiddle in DX up until that point, behind Shawn Michaels, things like that. So I feel like Vince thought, hey, it worked with Stone Cold, and anything Vince touched during that point in time in wrestling turned to gold.
Correct.
So, I think he figured he'd give Triple H that little rub, and, if it took Stephanie with him, to do it, hey, okay. I don't think he counted on Triple H giving Stephanie the rub, but that kind of, and I pop him again. There we go. But nonetheless, I don't think he counted on that. But
that was fantastic.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. But so I don't think he planned on that because Vince had, from what Stephanie said, Vince told her categorically, you will not date a wrestler.
Right.
It just won't happen. And damned if she didn't date one of the top wrestlers who is now over creative in the company, and Stephanie's not even with the WWE anymore. But that's another story for another day. Listen to the archives.
There you go. So that wraps up our game show with Frank getting the clean sweep here, going 5 for 5. So he gets his match at his PLE choosing. He gets to choose a stipulation. So what do you think? What are we thinking we're going to fight?
Well, if it has to happen, I don't go any shorter. I say we interject me into that championship match at WrestleMania here, make it a 3-way dance. Put me right on in there with Roman and Cody. If they're the 2 top stars in wrestling right now, then hey, I need to stand there with the best of the best.
Nice. They're saying it might turn into a triple threat anyway, potentially with Sami.
So I have heard that, but I don't like it. But not now, though. Hey, I that's my spot.
Oh, so you take that spot and then it becomes a 4-way dance.
Unlike Arn Anderson, I'm not giving up my spot tonight. So nobody's taking my spot.
All right, everybody. So thank you for playing along with us on our game show. Can you remember?
This was fun. I definitely enjoyed it. Hey, if anybody out there got questions, and you think you can stump me, we're going to put parameters on it. I don't need people from I don't need our overseas people telling me stuff about like the 40s. I'm not going to be able to go that far back. But if you give me from, let's say, 88 to current, I could probably roll with you in the major wrestling fact. If you tell me something about some indie show that happened in, 5-star, 6-star match in the Tokyo Dome back in, 89, I'm not going to know that. But something that was on TV, major storyline, WWE, WCW, most likely, I think I'll be able to roll with you. So if anybody sees something, you can try to stump me if you want. Hit us on our social media. Leave us a message.
Absolutely.
I dare you.
Oh, the gauntlet has been laid.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody. With that, we thank you for listening to our podcast today, and we bid you adieu.
Peace.
Today's podcast was produced by SBP. You can find our podcast on all major podcast platforms. Also connect with us on our social media accounts. Search for The Bookers Alliance on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.